Hello and welcome to the Speaking Frankly Football Show. I'm Frank Hughes, the chairman of Skelmersdale United Football Club, and alongside me is my co-host and passionate press officer AJ the Jet. Not that being involved with the football club is a prerequisite for hosting a football podcast, but it certainly helps. We are ready to dive headfirst into the vibrant world of non-league football in the North West, and we might even take a moment to discuss some of the bigger headlines in the sport. We'll explore life in the Northwest counties, bring you interviews with well-known faces in the league, and analyse how local teams are performing while making bold predictions for their upcoming matches. Nothing is off the limits here. We'll be diving into all kinds of topics, including complicated refereeing decisions and regulations that often leave fans perplexed. We want to hear from you too. This is your show, so don't hesitate to reach out with topics you want us to tackle. Let's get this conversation started and enjoy every single moment. We are speaking frankly. Hello and welcome to the Speaking Frankly Football Show, and a warm welcome to my co-host AJ.
Hi Frank. Hello everyone. Thank you very much for tuning into the third bonus episode of the Speaking Frankly Football Show. Coming up today, we are going to do a little bit of a non-league roundup and some news from around the scenes, including at Southport and at Burscough and the Combined Counties Football League. In part 2, we are going to be talking with Gary Moore, who is the manager of the playoff-winning Lower Breck, who have found themselves promoted from the Northwest Counties Premier Division up to the Northern Premier League West, the third promotion manager in a row that we've had on the show. And then we are going to finish it off in part 3 with our final thoughts and looking ahead to Skelmersdale United and its future. So, first up.
Well, listen, there's not a great deal to talk about in part 1. It's sort of thinning out, really, because there's not much to talk about, but there are a few things that pop up, and we'll obviously go through them. Marine has sort of come into the headlines again. Bobby Grant has been announced as the new manager of Marine, shortly after announcing his retirement from football. I think he's only been with the club for a season, but James Leary and Neil Young have great confidence in him. And to see him transition from player to manager so soon is a bit of a shock, but he'll have huge backing from Neil, who I'm sure will guide him in the right direction.
Very much so, yeah. I think both James and Neil will back him as much as what he needs. But I think the other side of it is that Marine, although they finished on a bit of a flourish, they did flirt with relegation for a little bit. In the early to mid part of the season, and I think it's really important for Bobby Grant's tenure as a football manager and for the club itself that he gets off to a really positive start to the new season.
Yeah, and we believe that there might be an announcement soon, if it's not already taken place, about who is going to be his assistant manager and obviously his backroom staff.
Yeah.
But they have been making signings. I'm assuming that Neil has played a big part in that while he's
as the director of football. Yeah, most certainly. So we'll move over to Burscough now, who have announced their first team management. So Dave Dempsey continues in his role as first team manager, and he's flanked by James McCulloch as his assistant. Jay Hawkes will be his player development officer, Nick Dunn as the first team coach, and Liam Bowyer as the head of goalkeeping. And that's rounded off by Liam Thompson as the club physio and Richard Tigwell as the kit man.
Listen, I think we've mentioned it several times during the sort of latter part of the season. Burscough had a really, really good run of fortune in the last third of the season. I think they went on a winning streak of 11. Was it 11?
It was 11.
11 games without defeat?
11 games without defeat. The majority of those were victories, and a fair few of those actually, were clean sheet victories as well, which boosted them up the table from, I think it was about 16th or 17th, and in the end they finished 12th or 11th, something like that. Yeah. So really positive end to the season for Dave Dempsey and his team, and he knows he's going to need to add a few more rounds of ammunition to his side before they kick off next season.
And good luck to Jay Hawkes, who's assumed the role of player development officer not long after being involved with Garswood United alongside Nick Matthews. They managed to secure Cheshire League football. They were struggling at the wrong end of the table before Nick Matthews took over as manager, and Jay Hawkes was helping him. So listen, best of luck for Burscough moving forward. And moving on to Southport Football Club. This is a recent press release, and I quote, "We want to inform you of recent developments regarding the ownership of Southport Football Club. As many of you know, the Big Help Group, along with Peter Mitchell and the rest of their board, are no longer involved with the club. Lynn Watson and Steve Porter remain as directors. The ownership of the club has now been transferred to myself, David Cunningham, and Kieran Malone. We are preparing a more detailed statement and look forward to meeting you all soon to discuss our plans. In the meantime, we want to clarify the situation. The formal completion of the takeover has been delayed due to an ongoing investigation into the Big Help Group's activities by the Charities Commission. This investigation has implications for the new ownership transfer. We have been in regular contact with the National League and are working towards fulfilling all the necessary procedures for us to be formally recognised as the new owners. However, it is crucial that the Charities Commission understands and is content with this takeover and what it represents as a fresh start for Southport Football Club, allowing us to rebuild with a clean slate. We are delighted to announce the appointment of Neil and Mark as our new management team on Monday. Recognising the urgency, we prioritise these appointments to enable them to begin working on player contracts and recruitment immediately. Kieran and I are both enthusiastic about the challenges ahead. We understand that owning a football club is not an easy task, and we know we will need the full support of everyone involved with the club and the wider community of Southport. We are eager to meet with you all in the near future. While we won't make any unrealistic promises, our commitment is to work diligently to make you proud of our club once again. We also want to acknowledge the incredible group of volunteers at Hague Avenue. Your dedication is the lifeblood of this club, and we've already witnessed firsthand the fantastic work you do on match days, at events and throughout the week. I would like to thank you all for your invaluable contributions. The past few weeks have been challenging and the delays have been frustrating as we're eager to move forward more quickly. We are aware of the articles circulating regarding the takeover and hope this update provides clarity on the reasons for the recent lack of communication from our side. End of quote.
Yeah, I think they've got a bit of a job on their hands. Obviously, we know that Southport did not have a particularly fantastic season by all accounts, and it did culminate in Jim Bentley leaving the club as its manager before the end of the season. They alluded to it in their statement there, but it has been confirmed that the new management team is going to be made up of Neil Dans, who has left Tranmere Rovers as his assistant manager to take up the managerial post, and he's going to be joined by Mark Duffy, who is a former Tranmere player himself and lives down the road in Ormskirk. They're really ambitious guys. They believe it's a great project, and they're really excited and grateful for the opportunity. So they have a job on their hands, as do Kieran and Dave, and it seems to be very much all change at Southport. Now, all change can mean good things or bad things, really. Again, they're going to need to negotiate all this red tape with the Charities Commission to try and extricate themselves from the big help group and the current investigation.
Do we know a great deal about Dave Cunningham and Kieran Malone?
We actually don't. No, there's not an awful lot about them anywhere really.
No?
No, unfortunately not.
It's a difficult one, Southport, isn't it? Because for many years, I mean, obviously since they dropped out of the Football League, it's not been great for them. They've had those moments in time where Liam Watson has got them back into the conference and got them playing at the higher level. I say the conference, the National League Premier, it was called the conference back in the day. So they've had moments where they've shone. I think they had a really successful FA Cup run when they played Derby County in the third round. In many ways, a sleeping giant.
A little bit, yeah. I think they're a little bit like us in a way. Obviously, I know we've fallen a little further as a sleeping giant than what Southport have, but they do represent a bigger name, a big name with a big history. And unfortunately, I think it's just poor ownership and poor decisions that have kind of led the club to experience dwindling ambitions, if you like. I think they'll be very pleased to have staved off relegation and finished the season on a bit of a high with a 1-0 win over Kidderminster. But now there's a lot of rebuild to do, and I don't think either Neil or Mark and Dave and Kieran can underestimate the scale of the build that's ahead of them, because it is going to be quite a big one.
Yeah, well, we'll hear more about that story in the coming weeks, I would imagine.
I think so, yes.
Now, the story that I think we covered last week, didn't we, about Jersey Bull, the Combined Counties Football League. We talked about the fiasco being that Jersey Bulls were deducted 3 points for fielding ineligible player, and then a few days later they reported Red Hill for making the same mistake. It appears that the decision on when the playoff finals takes place still hasn't been decided. I might be wrong at this time of speaking, but it appears to be a farce of Shakespearean proportions.
Just a little bit. We can't really kind of give you any much more of an update on that one, to be honest. I can't really begin to tell you how much of a daft outpouring this is, and the kind of the sheer. I wouldn't even know if it's called pettiness from Jersey Bulls for reporting Red Hill for making the same mistake, because obviously Red Hill took the place of Jersey Bulls at the top of the table, but have now been reported themselves. So it may very well be that the team who end up finishing third in the division actually ends up finishing top. Just not sure, but it's absolutely chaotic in the combined counties there. So we wait to see the full outcome of that.
Well, we are going to talk about Skelmersdale in the third part of the show, but we will just hit on the decisions today of the allocations to the various divisions, and it's looking interesting to say the least. There's
been a lot of movement in the National League system.
Almost 11 pages of
11
movement.
pages worth, absolutely, including I quite like the Combined Counties Football League Premier Division South, where there are still 3 teams to be confirmed as to whether they are coming up, going down, or moving sideways. That's you've got to kind of laugh at that one for them not having sorted anything out just there. We're seeing sideways movements for quite a few teams in the eastern counties. Haverhill, Borough and Needham Market reserves are both moving laterally. Newbury Forest and Southend Manor are moving in the Eastern Senior League. They've moved sideways. as well. There are also a fair few reprieves, relegations. So Cinderford Town and Cribs are in the Premier Division of the Hellenic Football League. OJM Black Country have been relegated to the Midland Football League Division 1. And then in our local area in the Northwest Counties, City of Liverpool and Wythenshawe Football Club have both been relegated back into the Northwest Counties. But Wythenshawe Town, who finished fourth from bottom in the Northern Premier League West, received a reprieve. So they will stay in the NPL West next season.
Which is good news for them. But listen, for now, we'll leave part 1 and we'll join you in part 2 after the commercial break to speak to Gary Moore, the successful manager of playoff winning side Lower Breck. Don't go anywhere. Special shout out to all the businesses that support Skelmersdale United Football Club, Origin Sign Company, T&W Garners, 7PDS, Skem Express Cars 5005, Lease Car UK, RNB Auto Centre, SB Skills Solutions and Hey Presto Web Design. Thank you to everyone who donates to the club, supports our race nights, raffles and the lottery bonus ball scheme. And, of course, the last man standing. A special thanks to those who organise these fundraising events, especially the incredible Lee Davis and Lucas Bergquist. To all who stand by us both on and off the field, we are truly grateful. If you wish to sponsor the show, please contact me at chairman.skemutdfc@gmail.com or call me on 07766 054 548. All proceeds will go to Skelmersdale United Football Club. Thank you for your unwavering support. Hello and welcome to the second part of the Speaking Frankly Football Show, and a warm welcome to Gary Moore, the manager of Lower Breck, the successful manager who's just managed to, through the playoffs, get them into the Northern Premier League West. A warm welcome, Gary, to the show.
Cheers, Frank. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're more than welcome. But listen, before we get to the nitty-gritty, just tell us a bit about yourself and your association with Lower Breck and how you started out in football.
Well, yeah, obviously I formed Lower Breck in 2010. Like most lads, as I say, I played youth football and went through the levels to a certain level, and outside commitments took me away from football, to be honest, around 2021. I was DJing, you see, Fridays and Saturdays, and so yeah, I was one of those lads who fell by the wayside. But then my brother-in-law asked me to come down and help aside. He was manager of Derby Saints. They were having a bit of a tough time, he won't mind me saying that. And so I went down to, obviously, I think it took my nephew to a few games when he couldn't make it through work. And then he asked me to come down. So yeah, he had a plan to have two teams. So he formed two sides, and I took, obviously, ownership of one of the teams. And then halfway through the season, speaking to a mate of mine, he knew a couple of lads who were around that age who were looking for another team. So the plan was to form another side, and that's how Lower Breck obviously were born. We came from, obviously, that came on the back of the Springfield League, you know, the Bill Shankly playing fields.
Yeah.
There was a league there that was it was coming to the end. It ended at, like, I think it was under 15, something like that. So yeah, so we made the decision to obviously form a club. I'm born and bred on Lower Breck. My mum and dad still live there now, and it was a case of, you know, where we getting the name from, and obviously we took it from there. And the lad's name was Andrew Souness, who started it with me. It didn't last long, you know, getting a load of under 16-year-old lads together. So yeah, that's where it started.
Yeah, listen, and I'm looking at your biography because we get very little information about you, but it says on your profile on the website, I think it is, where do you start about the man who masterminded Lower Breck's football domination? His tactical knowledge and knack of making history, making substitutions is now legendary. His eye for talent and his training regimes have labelled him the next Jose Mourinho. Some call him the Gary, Some call him Gaffer, some just call him G. But from this day forward, he will be known as the Genius, signed by Gary's mum. Did you actually write that yourself?
Well, do you know what? I'm glad we're not on camera doing this, put it that way, because I'm blushing now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like an old joke. So when, as I say, when we had all the lads, you were based under 18s then, as I say, we had them from 16 to 18, that little group. I say a few of them moved on into open age with us. But yeah, it was just a little bit of a joke with them, as I say. They called me Jesus, basically, at the time, and then it was a little joke that basically got took from one of the old websites that got brought to the newer one that obviously we've still got to this day. So, yeah, it stays there. Yeah, I'm certainly blushing with that one.
Yeah, listen, your secretary, is it James, is it?
It is, yeah, it's Jim Davis, yeah. Jimbo Davis, obviously.
Yeah.
Many will know him from obviously the Waterloo Dock with his dad, obviously local legend himself, Jim Davis.
Yeah.
One of the most successful managers, obviously, we've seen in this city at grassroots football, obviously.
Definitely.
Level. Jimbo's with us.
Yeah, when I contacted him, he turned around and said, yeah, by all means, I think you'll be happy to go on your podcast, but don't video him. I don't know what he was on about.
Well, you've got this is my first one that I've done. I'm one of those, I just like to stay in the background, so to speak. I don't mind doing interviews and stuff. Jim's been trying to get me on camera after every game. It's...
You're a bit like Tommy. Tommy doesn't want to do it either, but we managed to talk him into it eventually.
Well, you know what, those interviews are like post-game and stuff like that. It's, it's art on the sleeve sometimes, and sometimes things come out wrong. And,
it's the worst time to do it, isn't it?
The more we carry on, the more relaxed you get with it, type of thing. But yeah, this is the first one I've done of these, Frank. So
yeah, brilliant. Well, listen, we've been the first for many a interviewee, haven't we, in recent months? So we're happy to have you on the show. But listen, since we noticed that Lower Breck had built up a head of steam, we wanted to get you on the show. The reason being, you've shocked everybody in the league, but I guess that's helped you and the club really to sort of coming from behind and sort of quite sneakily. I would imagine behind the scenes you were quietly confident with the squad that you'd originally assembled.
So excuse me, around. I've touched on it in a few interviews now, obviously over the last few weeks and months. We had a good group and it on the back end of last season. We finished last season reasonably well. We were a bit disappointed not to get into the top 10, but we knew there was signs there that we'd found something. And it took us a couple of years to get that at step 5. So we came into this season with a good group of lads, and then around October time we made 3 signings, and they've been massively important for us. And we knew then we had something. And look, I said to the lads in the dressing room, we had a little bit of a sticky patch in October, but I said to the lads, this group will finish in the playoffs. We're too good not to. But then, look, it snowballed, of course. Did we think we were going to take Berry to the last day of the season? No, we didn't. But the aim, as I say, as we started turning them results over and we started pulling the goal difference in, obviously the belief's there, but we wanted to secure home advantage in the playoffs. That was the massive thing for us.
Yeah.
And as I say, when we were taking off the results, as I say, the goals are going in and stuff, so the belief rises. And obviously, look, you were hoping and praying for a slip up by Berry. Hats off to them. They finished with 9 clean sheets on the spin. So, they certainly they've done their job and they certainly earned the title. But to say that we took them to the last day of the season, that's an achievement in itself. And as I say, what we aimed for over, around January, February, we knew we had to finish second, and we done it. And then obviously the rest is history, isn't it now?
Yeah, the rest is kind of history at this point. You finished the season on, I think it was 103 points. 106. Pardon me, guys. 106. With that in mind, if the kind of the worst case scenario had happened and you'd lost during the playoffs, would you have kind of felt any kind of difficulty in understanding how 2 teams that had secured 100 plus points weren't able to go up automatically?
Yeah, look, we know the rules before we kick a ball, don't we?
Of course. It's
something that we've said we've been at step 5 now. Is this our 4th season, I think? And we've said it's something that needs addressing, especially in a league with 24 teams in it. There shouldn't be 1 team automatically. And look, you've also got to look at Ramsbottom. What did they finish on? 97, 98?
Yeah.
So there's 3 teams there. It's not just the one, how close they was. So,
yeah.
But look, the rules are there before we've kicked the ball. But, we're seeing it now today with all the allocations have gone out and the Northwest Counties Estate 24 teams again. It's a tough gig, isn't it? You know, we all know that 24 teams in the league, and
but you can afford to have a blip, though, can't you? I mean, we're in a totally different scenario. 34 games, you have
18 teams.
Yeah, you have a blip, and your blip is it's too long a blip.
Yeah.
I think you can look. You can afford to start the season slow, and you can also afford to have a patch around November, December, and it's one of the massive things now. Obviously, having playoffs, it keeps the belief in for a lot longer. And I've pushed for it for a while. I've said, look, I know it's a struggle for them for the FA to do what they've got to do, but it should be 3 or 3 down at every level of football. If we're part of the pyramid, we all want to be together. We're all under the same rules and the same, the banners, and we're asked to do the same things on and off the pitch. I think it all needs to be in line, because I don't know. It's tough, isn't it? Because look, I think there's a couple of divisions with 18 teams in that have the same promotion. One up and then one through the playoffs. So I don't know how that works. In fairness, but look, it's set in stone before you've kicked the ball, so you've got to go to it. You've got to go with it, as I should say. But yeah, look, we haven't. We've reaped the rewards this season, put it that way, from having a playoff.
Yeah, I think you certainly have. And obviously the final was held at your own ground at Anfield Sports Park, and you've described that as being a fortress from last season. Your home record was better than anybody else's in the division, 20 wins, 2 draws, and just that one sole defeat. 71 goals scored and 18 conceded. What do you put down that fortress mentality to?
It's something that we've always had since we've been there. Excuse me. When we were a Step 7 side, we made it a hard place to come to, and obviously we went 18 months unbeaten, didn't we, at Step 7? And obviously we tried to carry that into non-league, obviously, and it did happen for a little while. But as I say, the games get tougher. But we lost our way for a little bit, and it was something that we always said. Look, we've always had a motto, or no one beats you twice in a season, and first and foremost, you've got to win your own games, and you don't get beat there. And we had a couple of occasions this season when we were 3-1 down, 2-0 down, and we made sure we got a point out of them. Stockport Town were the only side to beat us there, and you should pride yourself on it. And look, I'm on record as saying that a lot of people moan about coming to Lower Breck because the pitch, because the facilities and stuff like that, but it's like us moaning about going to a bumpy grass pitch, isn't it, where the ball doesn't bounce fairly, and that type of stuff. So of course everyone's got their own thing. Obviously whoever you look at in the league, they pride themselves on the home form, and it's just something that we always say. You've got to win your own games, and as I say, and when we turn it on at Lower Breck, we're a tough side to face, and we have been for years. As I say, it's not just this year, but we lost our way for a little bit, but I'm glad to say that we found it again this year.
Yeah, you certainly did. There was also an awful lot of your points, as you alluded to there, being collected by goals in the 80 plus minutes of time. Is that a kind of key mentality that you endorse with the lads, to kind of keep going right to the very end, even when you think the game's gone?
Yeah, well, like this season, we seem to have a spell. I don't know the stats too much, to be honest with you, AJ, but we had a little thing like around 35 to 40 odd minute mark as well. We were getting some important goals to take into the dressing room. And then, as you say, at the back end of games, our fitness was telling. And look, we've only trained twice in 2025 as a team on the pitch. We've done our hard work, but what we were doing, we were running through the week. The lads were doing up to 10k running. That's what we've done with them, and we knew what we had. We knew what we had to do, and the schedule was brutal at some stages. As I say, so we had 1 month there with 9 games in it, and at that point, I think we were still in 2 cup competitions as well. So we knew we had to manage the players, and we knew we had the fitness though. And as I say, it's like once lads have a dip, yourselves, you footy men, you have them little moments in a game when teams drop the levels, and that's just for us where we've been looking to capitalise on it. And as I say, the back end of the first half, and especially towards the end of the second half, we've been able to put our foot down and get some really important goals. But I think it just comes from having a good group of lads as well, trying to drive each other on. And when you've got a target and there's a challenge there, the hunger and desire remains as well, doesn't it, in them games?
Yeah. Listen, 17 consecutive league wins prior to the playoffs signified how resilient the team has been during the final third of the season. However, the trouble with going on such a run is that you're conscious that it will eventually end, but it didn't. How were you feeling during this run, and if at any stage did you believe that you could catch Berry?
Look, the belief was there you could catch them, but we needed a lot of favours at that point. But also, as I said, I touched on it there, back in October, when if you marry up the two tables from October the way we finished, we probably needed a lot of favours then. But we had to do jobs ourselves. And look, you're always mindful that you might drop a couple of points here and there. And you've just touched on obviously the 17 wins, and it's like, you know, you're waiting for that one. Like we were drawing with Renneker. I think was 96th minute winner.
Oh yes, we remember that.
96,
yeah. So it's like you're looking at games in the greatest respect to teams, thinking, don't drop it here, don't drop the points here. And look, it's so hard, and the pressure, when the pressure's on, it's, you know, it's kind of just look, Claude. I'm one of those that prides myself on performances. You know, I set the standard of how we should be playing football, and I like to stick to it. But when you get to that stage, it's just win by whatever way it comes, isn't it? You know, and yeah, look, you're thinking your luck's going to run out. You know, as I say, we went to Cheadle last day of the season, leading obviously Berry to, I think it was lose by 4, was it?
Yeah.
But we took them to the last day. So yeah, look, the belief was there that we could go there. But I think Berry beat Paddy a week or two before, and inside me I thought it's probably done now. And look, the last day of the season, we were 0-0 with Cheadle, and we knew Berry were up, and Burscough had a man sent off. And we told the lads at half time in the dressing room, look, it's over. It's over. The title race is over, but we'd already secured second place in the playoffs. But we've got pride here. We could have, because we knew we had the playoffs the week later, we could have made 5 subs. We didn't. We went out and we wanted to win the game of football because, as you say, our record on the back end of the season's been absolutely unbelievable. And you know, you wanted that to continue, really. Touching on where you just said, obviously going into the playoffs, I haven't been nervous for a long time this season, really, because the lads have been performing, and there's only so much you need to say to a group of lads like what we've got at the moment. They know what the job entails, and so yeah, I've been turning up to football, you know, a lot more relaxed. But I was probably the most nervous that I've been for a long time at the West Didsbury game, because to finish on 106 points, and there was a lot of comments on social medias, and it was like, if Breck don't go up, if this doesn't happen, if that doesn't happen, where did he go from there? There was a lot of conversations, what happens, how did he keep the team together? So the pressure was building behind the scenes type of thing, but look, you know, we managed to get the job done, didn't we? So that was the main thing. So the West Didsbury game was a massive pressure moment for me.
Yeah, we'll come to that in a minute. But listen, it proof really, isn't it, that you had to win those 17 games to take Berry to the right to the wire anyway. It's been an incredible season, and anybody from watching from the outside in, it's been a fascinating season. But listen, it takes an awful lot to get over the line anyway, but you've had some really good goal scoring talent there. You've got Samuel Burns, who's your goal scoring talisman for the club, 27 goals, but you've also got 4 other players that have gone into double figures, with Jesse Dowling scoring 23 and Elliot Hughes scoring 22 goals. The team is absolutely blessed with goal scoring talent, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And look, we always say you need those lads. You'd always have that magic mark of 30 goals a season, don't you? You'd always think, we need a striker who's going to come in and give us 30 goals. And look, as I say, Elliot joined us from a Step 7 side in October. Amazing. Sam came down from Rylands. So if you look what they've done in terms of goal scoring since October alone, they're great numbers, aren't they? And look, you just mentioned Jesse as well. You know, for a winger, you know, for a left-footed winger playing on the right-hand side, to give you them numbers consistently as well over his. He hasn't missed many games this season. You know, he's been outstanding for us. He's been fully committed, and that's one thing to touch on, the goal scoring, but also the numbers that lads have done. I think we had 7 lads who turned out for us over 50 times in a season, or around 50. That's remarkable for me, do you know what I mean? So, yeah, but they all play the part, don't they? I can't just focus on the goal scorers. The lads wouldn't be too happy if it did.
Well, no, I was going to come to that as well. Yeah, 2 of the players who made over 50 appearances was Fraser Cookson and Theo Roberts. Was it really, you know, quite essential that you were able to form like a bit of a spine of the team to kind of maintain some good consistency?
Yeah, vitally important, and the pre-season meeting that we had, we always have a meeting on the last week of the pre-season, and we said, that's what I meant to touch on then when I've just said that into the 50 numbers. We said to lads who started the season with us to have as many as we could at the end of the season, because as you know, non-league, we'd have a big turnover. So that was vitally important. That's what we said, and what you just touched on, we had a few lads over 50, I think a couple around 49s and stuff. But that's all it was. It was about keeping a group of lads together. We haven't managed to do it for a few years. I've made mistakes as a manager. Players have made mistakes. We've signed the wrong players at the wrong times, the right players, wrong times, that type of stuff. And it happens. It's non-league, but I signed 2 players last season, Lewis Buckley and Tom Mitchell. They'd won the league with Vauxhall Motors. They went to step 4. And it was evident from what they were saying from the outside. We had the turnover of players, what Lower Breck would perceive, that was too many. And that hit home a little touch. And we were like, well, yeah, you're right, but how do we keep a group of lads together? And we spoke to them in the summer. We said, look, this is the aim. You might not be happy sitting on a bench for 10 games, but you might get another 20 games following them 20 starts. Your opportunity will come. There's not many lads who want to sit there and do that. There isn't. And it's a sad thing now, to try and keep that group of lads together. But I think we had 13 lads in the squad of 16 on the last day of the season who started the season with us.
Yeah.
And there was a bit of pride in that. The other lads came in October. Do you know what I mean? So I think we've done pretty well to get over the line. I think the stat came out today or yesterday where we've used the least players in the Premier Division this year. I think it was 33. So that's massive. I think I'm on that list of 33, by the way. So, so look, it's all about getting a group of lads to want to be there from start to finish. It's tough because lads will move on. Lads won't be happy and stuff. But that's what it's been: the consistency, the numbers, and have a consistent team, having a consistent 11 going out on the pitch for you each week.
Yeah. In terms of recruitment, though, when you're looking at the personnel that you bring into the club, do you have this mindset of making sure that the players that you've got are going to be prepared for the step up, or even beyond that?
Well, most of the lads that you've already had, they've already had a taste of non-league anyway. For us, what it's been, it's the hunger, because as I say, it's like, look, you've got to get lads who want to win. It's not nice losing games of football, but as we've touched on at the start, there's a playoff there. You can have bad blips in the season, and you can still got a chance. And it's trying to keep the younger in the lads, but as you say, it's hitting their numbers, and the lifestyle that lads can have now with the holidays. They can go, look, you have lads miss the start of the season, August. It's one of the most important times of the year. You got the FA Cup, you got the FA Vars, and it can get your season off to obviously a good or a bad start, can't it? But you also have lads who'll miss games now who'll go away over Christmas and they'll go away over New Year's and stuff. And for us, it's been trying to find those lads who do want to do. Look, it's tough, and it's 60 odd games a season, but you need lads who are going to give you 50 plus, 40 odd. It's not good having lads who 30 odd games a season and stuff like that. You're not going to build nothing.
No.
We've found that over the last couple of seasons, as I say, it just hasn't worked for us. There's been too much of a turnover of players because the commitment hasn't really been there. And look, I don't know if you know, I haven't missed a game in 15 years, not one game. And that's what I do. That's what I give. I'll give you everything. I just ask for it back. Look, if you come in our dressing room and give us 100% and we get beat, I've got nothing to say to you. But if there's lads in there and they're half-hearted and they're arguing about like why aren't he in the team, but you've missed 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games because you've been going on holidays and stuff like that. Well, there's arguments to be had, and it was all about, look, can we get a group of lads together who really want to take this club forward? Because, as I say, we've stagnated over the last couple of years.
Do you feel as though the season starts too early?
Yeah, I think we've had a couple of years, haven't we, when we started in July.
It's ridiculous.
But it probably comes on the back of the 2014 league and then the prelim for the FA Cup. And look, we started our first year at step 5, I think it was. Our first game was in the Isle of Man away. So, and that was in July. So, so you're like, well, here we go. Do you know what I mean? It's
nice to go to the Isle of Man.
Our second season, tell a lie. That was our second season, that was. But but it's 24 teams in the league. But I'm not too sure. The step 6 start as well at the same weekend.
We started, I think it was the 27th of July, wasn't it?
Yeah, look, that's tough, and especially when you're going right through to April. And as you know yourselves, I think you hit October. I think we done 9 games in October, if I'm not wrong, and then nine games in February or March. You know, there's 18 games there in 2 of them months. And look, the weather's been great to us this year, hasn't it? Been fair, but look, I'm not one to. I can't put leagues down and people who do fixtures. It's a tough gig, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
for what
definitely.
they've got to do. But I think now with the amount of 3G pitches available to the league, I think you've got to look at it and try and navigate fixtures to make it a little bit, I don't know, a little bit easier type of thing, because, as I say, the schedule's brutal. It is brutal, and as we're touching on there, you're asking a lot of these lads these days. The game's changed, do you know what I mean? You know, it's changed over the years, hasn't it? Now, you know, the focus is not solely on football. You know, when I played for teams when I was a lot younger, you know, you wanted to be in football. There was nothing else you wanted. That was your Saturday and your Sunday. But these lads have got a lot more going for them than we did back in the day.
I was just going to say there before that you're best off going to the Isle of Man in July rather than February when we went, because it's bloody cold.
Well, look, we had to go back in the FA Vars 2 months later, and then last season I got stranded there, didn't I? And the game got postponed.
Oh, crikey. Yeah.
So, and then we had to go back for a dead rubber a month later.
Oh, dude.
so I've had my fair trips over there. But the good trips, aren't they?
They are, definitely. So, going back to the season then, you've got to the playoffs, you finish runners-up, and you've secured your home advantage, which is what you were looking for. And obviously that gives you a bit of a psychological edge. However, you're playing 2 cup finals in many ways, which is a great leveller. And what was proven by the fact is that both games was pretty tough affairs. Talk us through the West Didsbury game first. You said you were feeling nervous about that one. Were the lads feeling it?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, we knew West Didsbury had been coming to watch us for about 4 or 5 weeks as well. And look, they done a number on us. They done a great job on us. You know, all credit to them. We just couldn't get going on the day. The nerves were there. You know, you could see it in certain lads' performances. You know, we had 5 or 6 lads who were, you know, performing way below the standard that they can bring and what we require, basically. And so, you know the nerves are there. And as I say, you speak to the lads, as I say, we were 1-0 down at half time, and it's just trying to retain that belief. You know, you've had that belief all through the season and stuff like that, and you know, you can see the nerves. You know, you can see it in lads' performances, and as I say, it's just trying to get them to, as I've just touched on before, it's win by all costs. Win however way it comes today, because that's all that matters. No one looks today and goes, oh, well, Lower Breck were poor and blah, blah, blah. You won the game, and look, we got a slice of luck with the second yellow card. It was a second yellow card, the lad deserved to be sent off, but also it's a slice of luck when a team goes down to 10. But as you know, it's a tough game when the team goes down to 10. But we moved the ball well, and we've had a song now that the supporters have been bringing to the games called Magic Moments, and you need someone to probably bring that in a game, and that's what Sam Burns done on the day. He brought 2 moments out, and you need it, don't you? You need the talisman. You need someone to stand up in them games when you're not performing. As I say, you've got too many lads below standards. There's a few times in the season when I'll say to the dressing room, on days like this, if someone's way below par, somebody else has to go and take the extra percentage on. You need to go and give us 110, you need to go and give us 120, whatever it is. If your teammate's having a poor game, you raise it, and Sam done that for us, luckily enough.
Yeah, he definitely did, and that took you to the final against Padiham, and they were another team who went down to 10 men, and you won a penalty off the back of that. There was a bit of a wait actually between the sending off and Jesse Dowling scoring his penalty, so I've got to give him props on his composure. The scoreline of 2-0 looked a little bit flattering because Padiham had put up a really good fight, and then you score a goal 6 minutes into injury time. Just tell me what your thoughts were when that second goal went in.
Emotional. I'm not one to over the last I think I celebrated the goal at Renneker, and it's not like me to go on those runs up touch lines, put it that way, and I think I was over halfway across the pitch for the Padiham game before the referee gave me one of those looks that literally set me back. Excuse me. Yeah, but relief really. Look, what a way to finish it. You just touched on it there. Look, even though they went down to 10 men, they were always in the game. We've had some good games with Padiham and we get on very well with them as well as a club. I thought we were turning the screw at 0-0. You know, we come out second half. We looked like we were a different beast. The first half, it was a Nottingham game of football, really. Our keepers had to pull off an unbelievable save. It weren't Nottingham in it. But we were starting to turn the screw. And look, we should have went and got our second and we should have went and got our third a lot earlier. But we didn't. And then Elliot Hughes, just after he subbed a couple of minutes before, he couldn't move. He couldn't move. And then, look, we got a counter-attack. And as I say, the ball comes to him and he does his trademark chop and puts it in the corner. And look, the scenes, it was just great to see the lads going over to the supporters who were with us week in, week out, home and away. You know, and then just I turned around and see three, obviously I have two assistants in Mikey and Liam. Warren's a coach. They were hugging each other. Our physio, Rhiannon, who's been with us through thick and thin over the last few years, she's just standing in the dugout and like, I just made my way back over to them and it's just like, you know, it's emotional. Do you know, it was really, really emotional. You're thinking, you know, I'm going here, I'm going to start crying on the touchline, you're thinking. And then obviously the whistle's gone soon after, and obviously went straight over to Padiham, but yeah, as soon as we got in with the lads and the celebrations, and I could see like the emotion on Conor Milton, our skipper, and a few others, and as I say, people were coming on the pitch, and yeah, it was hard to hold back. It was. Yeah,
you've gone on record as saying that the lads are relatively quiet. So, how did the celebrations go?
Well, we got turfed out of the place that we went back to.
All right.
No, look, it's the quiet group. What I say about them, the quiet group of lads through the week. I've been a part of group chats since the introduction of WhatsApp that can have 1,000 messages a day. Yeah. You know, they're brutal. Some of them have been brutal, put it that way. And I always, you know, I'm always in the mix with the lads. You know, like the lads know me. Come half one on a Saturday, I'm your manager. Come 5 o'clock, I'm your mate. Do you know what I mean? And that's the way it should be. You've got to be all together. And, you know, we have all these nights out and what have you. You have these team bondings, but we've got a load of quiet lads. We've got school teachers in there. We've got all kinds of different lads in the dressing room, and some of them are very, very quiet. So, but yeah, you know, after that game there, as I say, we had a place to go back to, and yeah, look, it was a great night because a lot of supporters had gone back there as well, and we got to enjoy it. But we did after the West Didsbury game as well, to be honest with you, because I'm one of those. A couple of years ago, I didn't celebrate the wins like I should do. You know, I said it yesterday. I had an interview yesterday, and I said, you win a game of football, you think of the next Saturday, you think of what's coming next, what's my team going to be, what am I going to do? You lose a game, and it sits with you for like 2 or 3 days, doesn't it? So I've said I'm going to enjoy these ones, and a few people have said it to me. Like the skipper said to me after the final when he said, you've been a little bit more relaxed this season. So obviously they've noticed.
Yeah, with time grows great patience, I suppose. But listen, we know Liverpool's a great catchment area for football and talent, but it's also fiercely competitive with that many non-league clubs in the area. So how hard is it to tap into the local talent?
Yeah, well, I think it's changing now. I think you're getting a lot of younger lads, obviously, because we've got all the colleges and stuff like that now. So you've got a lot of young lads wanting to come into non-league. And I said it a couple of years ago. I think the non-league goldfish bowl as such is probably running dry now. Of all those lads who've been around for a long, long time and made it, you know, a great career out of playing non-league and done big things at non-league, by the way. So I think it's getting harder because there's not enough, I should say, not many lads who you know on the radar type of thing out there now. So
there are different breed of players now as well, though, aren't they?
It is, yeah. Look last year, because obviously I brought Liam Warren in. Liam Warren, Lee Donaghy was at Ramsbottom. And look, Lee's been around non-league a long time. He's a beaten FA Trophy, FA Vars finalist at Wembley, you know. So he knows non-league, and it was one of those. Look, and you know Tony Sully, who was with us for a good number of years. Sully was excellent for us. He was great, but you know he moved on to Prescott Cables to be with one of his mates, and it was probably perfect time for both of us type of thing, as in with us type of thing. And so yeah, he had his contacts. We also had ours, and you know, as I say, we moved to a different area. We started bringing a couple of lads in from Manchester and stuff last year. And so, look, you get one or two gems on the back of it. We've still got a few lads who are still with us now. Owen Collins, as I say, Michael Fitz, who Lee had at Ramsbottom, I think, as well. Fitz, he's a Scouser, by the way. But he was playing out them ways. And so, yeah, you have to broaden your horizons a little bit. But this season was probably just about... Yeah, look, we brought in a few local lads, as you touched on, Jesse, Jordan Barrow, lads who've been up the league, but they dropped back out of it. They went to Step 7. Elliot was happy playing Step 7 football. There's loads and loads of quality lads still playing Step 7 because they don't want to... It's tough, isn't it? It's a tough gig, isn't it, non-league, as I say, as we touched on, 60-odd games a season. We're asking you to, obviously, at the start of the season, do Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. It really, really is hard. And the standards, you know what I mean? There's rules to uphold, and we're asking for the full buy-in now because if I give you 100% of what I've got, I need it back. And yeah, it's hard. And as you touched on there, it's a different breed. And it's all, look, everything's changed though, hasn't it? You know, everyone's lifestyles have changed, and you know, I say it a few times now. There's not many dressing rooms you can go in now and probably, you know, rip the air out of your head in, you know what I mean? You've got to be a bit more calm and composed. The game's changed, the lads have changed in the dressing room, and you've got to go with it yourself. And it's tough. It is tough now.
Like I said, new breed, new generation. What do you make of the new generation of players? Because a lot of the players, certainly that we sort of tapped into last season, coming from the academies that you alluded to before, and they'll literally play 3 or 4 games in between the games that they're playing for the club as well. It's worrying.
Well, when you look at, you know, obviously we had a couple of lads came in from the Father Academy last year, and they were great for us. Owen and Josh, and as you know, I speak to Carl McCall, you're probably aware of as well. Do you know what I mean? And it was managed well with those because they had a certain amount of games. It was like, look, you just let us know when they're playing it, because they want the best for the players, of course they do. But also, you know, they've got their own, at the back end, they've also got big games themselves. So when we're probably, obviously, last season we didn't have that many games, but if they would have still been around with us this year when we were having them 9 games in a month, you've just touched on it there, they're probably going to be doing about 16 games in a month. And we also, and still now, we have lads who play Sunday football as well, and we play for the successful Sunday sides. So, you know, I think we've had times in the past when lads have played Thursday, Saturday, Sunday and a Monday. You know, so it's brutal, that, isn't it? You know, but yeah, look, I think with the younger lads now, I think, like anything, they want everything too soon. I think they can come in and just play 60 games a season. If you're good enough, you'll play. If you've got to, you know, sit on the bench a couple of times, but look, you can probably say that about the lads who've been around non-league for a long, long time. They don't want to sit on a bench, and the young lads don't want to sit on a bench, but. You know, it's tough. It's a hard one now, but I think looking at, from what I've seen now with the teams that we've played over the last couple of seasons now at Step 5 and what I know some of the teams at Step 6, I think the younger lads are going to be the future of building sides, because there's some technically very good football players and teams, and one team I can touch on at our level was Longridge. You know, definitely. And what Ashley does with the teams that he puts out there and the football that they play and the manner that they play it, it's outstanding. Do you know what I mean? It's outstanding to watch, and you know, and you just think, I think more teams will go that way because, you know, what the colleges are drilling into them and stuff like that. You know, so, and the young lads who've obviously been on academies and stuff. So yeah, look, it's hard, isn't it? It's going to be it's a tough one, but we need to bring the young lads through.
Listen, in terms of budgets, I've always imagined that your club's sort of at the lower end of the scale, which makes the achievement of winning the playoffs even greater. But how important is money at this level? And obviously, you're moving a step up now.
Well, it's massive. You know, look, we came from our first year in non-league. We had the group of lads who'd obviously gone 18 months unbeaten. And then we basically said to him, look, we're going to give you some expenses. And he was like, well, why? And we were like, well, because non-league, it's what it's about. We're going to be asking you to go to Steeton on a Tuesday. You know, that type of stuff. And then... But from there, it grows, because then you want to bring another lad in, you know, and he might bring you an extra, as we touched on there. You bring a lad who's going to come in and score you 20, 30 goals. He's going to want a little bit more. And so, yeah, it's hard. And as you move forward, you need more and more. You need more investment. And look, you know, without name dropping a few, we've had like we've got a main sponsor who's stuck with us since step 7, Fisher Crown Accountants, and without them, without the likes of them, and they've grew with us, you know, they came with us. What do you want when you first year? A kit. What do you need in your second year? You need 2 kits, you know, and then it's like, what do you need now? Well, I could do with like a bit more, you know, we need this around the ground, or we need that, you know, and as you know, you'd have to bring your stands into it and stuff like that as you move forward. You've got all grading to appease and stuff like that. So yeah, without the likes of them, but we've had 2 sponsors who've stuck with us now for a few years. No, we don't even have to speak to them. We know they're there, you know, and every year they're up in it. But we need more, and it's hard, isn't it, as you say, because you're moving forward. And look, I'm not really one of those people who likes to talk about budgets. Everyone goes on about Bury, what they've got and what other clubs have got. Ramsbottom have had. I'd love to have Bury's budget. I'd love to have it, you know, who in the right mind wouldn't, do you know what I mean? But you work with what you've got, and, you know, as long as those lads are giving you value for what they're getting, then, you know, you've got to be happy type of thing. And I think that the playoffs have muddled it a little bit now, because a lot more teams will put a lot more money into it, and they'll put a lot more money in. I think he's probably a couple of years ago, teams used to just pull the wages, didn't they? Yeah, you know, people would pull them, you know, the expenses would go, you know, but I think it's getting tougher and tougher and tougher, because, as I said, I think we've had a couple of big clubs, haven't we, around us, obviously at step 5 over the last couple of years. We've got a bit more money than anyone else, and rightly so, when you've got 3,000, 4,000 people coming through your gate, you should do. But look, it's tough for us, as I say. I think our average gate, we're up to around 200 now, it's good for us, because that's the highest average that we've probably had in non-league. But yet, away from it, you know, we're now looking towards sustaining ourselves as a step 4 football club, and also we have to appease the grading by March 31st, which we will do.
Yeah, well, I was going to mention that, because you've mentioned Anfield Sports Park as being your fortress, but in terms of future progression, can the club continue its ambitions given the limitations of the stadium? Yeah,
well, you can, but obviously people do think there's too many limitations, and there isn't, to be honest, Frank. There's a lot of scope, and we've got the council behind us. We've got two of the main parties, so to speak, who are right behind us, and they help us where we need to go. Obviously, that doesn't bring money to us, you know what I mean? But you know, when we moved in there was a woman called Mary Rooney. She'd worked there for 40 odd years. I don't know if you remember the old Vernon Sanctor, which is Liverpool's car park.
Yeah.
She worked there as well before she moved to Annie Sports. And as you know, I'm born and bred in Lower Breck, so there's been a great rapport and bond there. So when we first moved in there, the conversation with her, like before we applied to go non-league, me and Jim went in for a meeting with Mary and a woman called Jane Nolan, who's now she's the chair. And they said, look, we've got nothing for you, but we'll back you all the way. Yeah. And without them, we wouldn't be a non-league club. But we knew what the scope was. You know, that was a one-sided facility when we went in there. So we knew we had to get 2 sides. Then we went and got 3 sides. Now, obviously, look, we don't need 4 sides next season, but it's something that we're going to push for.
Yeah.
And look, you've just got to repeat the grading every year. You know, next season, by March 31st, we need to have a capacity of 1,300. We're only 300 off it. We will achieve that, by the way. And there will be a new pitch going down over the next year. You know, it probably might get to the close of, obviously, the season coming now. But there's loads we can do. The appetite's there to back us. We've got a long lease on the facility. The centre has themselves. You know, we class them as partners. You've got the Liverpool Foundation there as well, who back us as well. Do you know what I mean? In what way they can do. But yeah, look, there's a lot of scope for work to be done on there. I've touched on it a few times now, and you know, probably people think I'm a fanboy, but if you look at Dorking Wanderers and what they've done, they've gone from a Sunday League team to playing in the old conference, basically. And if you look at their facility, it's nearly identical to what Lower Breck's is.
Yeah. It's a steady growth plan, isn't it, really, rather than sort of pitching above your stations.
But it's like that for every ground. It's like that for every club. And you know yourselves, obviously, you know, where you are now and where you obviously you have been and stuff like that. It's a tough gig, you know, and it's a tough gig with these cage football facilities that people don't like. Our aim and ambition is to turn it into a non-league football ground. Now, we're only going to be able to do that by keeping a 3G pitch down, and obviously that's only going to take you so far as well, type of thing, because obviously they've got a community to obviously facilitate, you know what I mean? We haven't gone in there as bullies and took over the facility. We just like to think that we've put it on the map a little bit more, but by doing it, we've added a lot to it, and we want to keep adding more, and we are going to, with the help of the centre, by the way. They have to put a lot into back Lower Breck as well, by the way, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Behind the scenes. It's not just all us, as I say, they help us where they possibly can, and we pride ourselves on people leaving there with a good thing to say about us as a club, and look, you're always going to get the gripes and the people who don't like them facilities, and you're getting it now with the hubs with the 3 pitches in a hub. But no, look, don't worry, we will get the ground up to the necessary requirements, put it that way.
Listen, it's been an amazing journey for the club, like 15 years since you've formed.
Yeah.
You must be looking forward to the challenges ahead, particularly in the Northern Premier League West.
Yeah, because look, you just touched on it there. I said it in an interview yesterday. I remember playing a game in 2011. I was the only person on the touchline with 13 players. So we had 11 players on the pitch and we had 2 on the sideline. In that game, we had 2 men sent off, by the way. I'll never forget it. So we had 13 players and me there, and so now what you just said there, we're going into the NPL West. It hasn't sank in yet, I'll be honest, it hasn't. Obviously, the allocation's coming out today. There's been a good little chatter behind the scenes and obviously on social media and stuff, and yeah, the excitement's going to start building now. I'm trying to have a break. I don't get a break. I don't get one because you want one, but your phone's there, isn't it? Your phone's there to speak to people and message people, so there's no such thing as one of those. But yeah, look, it's just the excitement's going to get ramped up. The pressure, obviously, behind the scenes to do what we've got to do is going to get ramped up. Touched on that sponsorship, obviously, there's a lot of things to change in terms of obviously how we move forward now, obviously, in terms of revenue and stuff like that. But yeah, look, as a football side, as a manager of a club now going to step forward, the excitement's there. And it's, as I say, it's such, we're going to face a couple of teams that we've done in the past, and we have a great rapport with Avro. We're going to go and face Congleton again. Obviously, we get to rub shoulders with Bootle now in a league, and then it's all the new clubs really, isn't it? Stalybridge Celtic, Whitton Albion, who we've played in pre-season games. There's a lot there, isn't it? Trafford, and I can keep reeling them all off, but yeah, it's still pinch myself that we've got promoted. And
there's money spinners there as well. Berry, you've got Berry to look forward to as well.
Yeah, look, we've played Berry 3 times, and we've never really. We must be one of those clubs that have never really reaped the benefits of it, because as we touched on, they don't really like coming to our grounds, and we've beat them 3 times at the Annie, so I hopefully that's the reason why they don't want to come. But no, look, look what Berry have just had for their last game of the season, 9,000. Bloody hell, Yeah. But look, our capacity is 1,000. If we can get 1,000, we've never hit 1,000. Do you know what I mean? If we can hit 1,000 there at some stage in this season, it'll show you that the club is still moving forward. But also now we get to play in the FA Trophy.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a sort of elevated FA Vars competition, isn't it? There's more revenue involved there.
It is, yeah, it is. You just, and look, we've never done too good in them competitions, the Vars and the league. The FA Cup, and as I say, the league competition. We had a good go this season, but yeah, we've probably we've failed in them competitions, and we've prided ourselves over the years in cup competitions. As I say, if you look at the history, we've done a double, we've done a treble, we've done a quadruple. We've done everything at the level. So yeah, as I say, we've had a couple of barren seasons, but we've got the biggest prize, which is promotion this year, and we get to go and give another league another go. We go and get to put Lower Breck on the map even further, and I think we've done that obviously by pushing Berry all the way 106 points, and look, the excitement's there. It's I'm going to milk it for a little bit longer, I'll be honest.
Listen, you deserve it. You deserve it. But listen, just a quick one before we let you go. In terms of recruitment next season, you happy with what you've got, or you're out there looking already?
Yeah, well, you're never happy, are you? No, we are, of course. We are. Look, we've touched base with a couple of our own players, because we've got to try and secure a few. Look, every conversation that we've had with the lads, no one wants to leave, not one player, which is great. There'll probably be more proper conversations with them to make sure they are fully on board, because we don't want to get to August and we lose lads after 5 games because they're not happy, or this, that and the other. But so there'll be conversations to be had. Yet there's targets, there always is targets. We always build a list. We'll always touch base with lads who maybe are looking to move on from the clubs that they're at. Lads have obviously touched base with us. They've shown an interest, obviously, at the back end of the season. Look, if you're looking at any players, I could be looking to moving on. But yeah, we're going to get this week out the way. We're going to get into next week. Probably start planning a few meetings. Yeah, but look, it's trying to enjoy this moment while the sun's out as well.
Yeah. A few more beers.
Well, yeah. Look, I'm not a big drinker. I'm a lightweight, but I've probably had one there enough every night since we won promotion. Put it that way. As they say. So,
the rocky road.
Well, as well as football on the telly and there's beers in the fridge. You know what I mean? As I say, you can enjoy it, can't you? There's going to become a point where I'm going to have to say, look, stop it now. But
We'll concentrate on next season then, yeah.
Yeah, look, we ride it for a little bit longer, and I hope all the supporters and the players certainly are as well. As I say, look, we've got a few more nights out planned because we want to enjoy it as a group.
You've got
it's hard keeping the lads together to go on, Benidorms and your beaters and stuff like that. But there's loads of little things going on locally and obviously all over the country, and hopefully we can just keep getting the lads together for a few more weeks, because before they know it, they're going to be getting beasted again.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. Listen, it's been great having you on the show, Gary.
I appreciate it.
We want to get you on the show for a while, so we're really fortunate to get you on. Best of luck.
I have been hiding, Frank, I won't lie. I do hide.
But listen, best of luck to you and Lower Breck for next season, and hopefully we can talk you into coming back onto the show when you've settled into the Northern Premier League West.
I certainly will, mate. Yeah, and I appreciate the time from you and AJ, mate. I really do.
Not at all, Gary. We're rooting for you.
Yep.
Go well, mate.
Definitely.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, take care, Gary. Bye-bye.
Bye now. Bye. Special shout out to all the businesses that support Skelmersdale United Football Club, Origin Sign Company, T&W Garners, 7PDS, Skem Express Cars 5005, Lease Car UK, RNB Auto Centre, SB Skills Solutions and Hey Presto Web Design. Thank you to everyone who donates to the club, supports our race nights, raffles and the lottery bonus ball scheme, and of course the last man standing. A special thanks to those who organise these fundraising events, especially the incredible Lee Davis and Lucas Bergquist. To all who stand by us both on and off the field, we are truly grateful. If you wish to sponsor the show, please contact me at chairman.skemutdfc@gmail.com or call me on 07766 054 548. All proceeds will go to Skelmersdale United Football Club. Thank you for your unwavering support. Hello and welcome to the third and final part of the Speaking Frankly football show, and a big thank you to Gary Moore. What an interview. What a guy.
That's a stunning interview and a really good guy. Very, very passionate about what he believes in the project of Lower Breck. He's seen this club through, the highest highs, the lowest lows, and I think this could have been the highest high of his career so far. So all of next season, he's just going to be a pure adventure, and so we absolutely wish him well with that. Yeah,
that seems to be a very tight-knit football club, doesn't it?
Very much so, yeah. So as he said in there, all the boys there stayed throughout the majority of the season. I think it was 13 players of his final squad were players that had turned out on the first day. The other 3 joined in the autumn. So there were a real kind of unity and collective togetherness there, and they all kind of believe in the Lower Breck project. And as he said in the interview as well, none of them are going to leave, which means they all believe in the project of Lower Breck rather than their own individual exploits, which I can really appreciate.
And I think if you're going to be a winner, you have to have that kind of environment. You have to have players that are going to stick to the task, and hopefully, like he says, they will want to continue playing for a successful side. The only problem being is money. We do know that there's a lot of players that will move on for the next £5 or £10.
Yeah, I'm afraid so. Like, football is a bit of a fickle business as well. We've seen it with players, even at the top level, players who are moving to, maybe not as big a clubs, but for extra money, I was the players who relocated to China or Russia during those crazy big spend periods, and I think now with America and Saudi Arabia, those are the new ones as well. So it's fair play to him for being able to sign players with loyalty and commitment to the badge.
Well, I think he'll do well because listen, he gave the impression there that at 1:30 he's the boss. At 5 o'clock he's a friend. So I think he's got the right balance there.
Yeah,
he seems to be well liked, which is great.
Very much.
But listen, thanks once again to Gary for coming on the show.
Very much, yeah.
I hope to speak to him sometime next season when he's hopefully doing really, really well in the Northern Premier League West.
Yeah. Now, we are going to move on to matters of Skelmersdale United. Now, if you didn't see the notification by the North West Counties Football League at midday yesterday, then you will be unaware that Skelmersdale United have been relegated from the North West Counties Division 1 North, and thus relegated from the semi-professional football circuit altogether. The announcement was made generically, and everybody was notified at the same time. There was no embargo placed on clubs who had been notified beforehand, so we found out at the same time that you did. Now, interestingly enough, the Division 1 North has retained 18 teams in the division, and the same with the Premier Division, which has retained 24. But the North West Counties First Division South has 19 teams in it, including 2 that were newly promoted out of regional leagues. So Hawkmond and MSB Walton have been promoted. Telford Town have also been promoted from further south on the map. And Division 1 North only sees 2 changes to it. So Cheadle Heath Nomads have been moved latterly from the Southern Division, and Fulwood Amateurs will take our place in the North West Counties Division 1 North, with Garstang receiving a reprieve and Route 1 Rovers being moved latterly to the Eastern Division.
These are all, of course, I have to point out, are decisions made by the FA and not the North West Counties.
No.
But what I did find strange was that MSB Walton have found themselves in the Southern Division of the North West Counties. Bit odd one for me, that.
They find themselves in the Southern Counties despite playing in the Liverpool Premier Division last season. Obviously, we talked to Gary, and we know from experience that there are an awful lot of Liverpool-based teams that are plying their trade in the Division 1 North and the Premier Division as well. Including Maghull, Lower Breck, Litherland Remica, South Liverpool, City of Liverpool, AFC Liverpool. So there are a few that are based in Liverpool in the northern end. So that in itself makes this a slight eyebrow raiser.
Well, it does, because Cheadle Heath Nomads have been laterally moved over to the North Division. I mean, there's surely teams there, Droylsden included, that are more suddenly, not that I'm suggesting Droylsden should have been, because they fought hard to get back into the
They certainly did.
to the North, or they certainly wanted to. There's always going to be fall guys and people that are not going to be too happy, but for me, it would have made more sense if Cheadle Heath Nomads would have stayed in the Southern Division, thus making it up to 20 teams rather than 19. And listen, I'm gonna say it, but a reprieve for Skem would have been great for us. We take it. We know what the rules are before the season starts. We knew there was a good chance that it was only going to be one team that were going to get relegated. Unfortunately, we couldn't finish any higher than we did. We finished bottom, but it's a sad state of affairs. We know that points per game ratio didn't favour us in terms of reprieves either. But I just question the balance right across the non-league spectrum, obviously at step 6, and whether a reprieve could have been made for Skem.
Yeah, it's exceptionally difficult, really, and it does make the balance of the Northwest counties now incredibly lopsided. Because, as we say, there's 19 teams in the Southern Division. There's there are teams that are further down south than Cheadle Heath Nomads that maybe could have been moved sideways into teams further north. That could have moved into the Northern Division and then helped round the number placings out to 20 teams. We will not really understand exactly why there are only 18 teams in the North, 19 teams in the South, and 24 teams in the Premier. It's very difficult.
It is, and listen, we're not making excuses.
No, we're certainly not.
But there are extenuating circumstances and reasons why some of the rules don't help clubs, particularly those that are struggling. And I'm not suggesting that there should be any favouritism, because we know that doesn't exist. But in terms of the overall picture of the Northwest Counties Division 1, and as it stood at the beginning of last season when we were relegated, a lot of those games were top heavy. They were played. I think we played 2/3 of our games before Christmas, before the Boxing Day, before we'd finished our Boxing Day dinner, which didn't seem, it wasn't conducive to a team that was struggling. One, having no home, two, having no finances, and struggling to get a squad of players together. So I think we started our season around about the 27th of July. So they're all hurdles that, yes, everybody has to cross and climb, but it's more difficult when you're not in the position, a better financial position as some people are. And we'll go on record and we'll say it again. It's difficult when you're playing every single game away from home. But we are where we are.
So the trick is we don't know where we are, but we only know where we're not, unfortunately, as our next league placing is yet to be decided.
We can take a look at where we might end up.
Yes.
And I've printed off the pages there. Obviously, the Liverpool Premier League, which MSB Walton were promoted from, finishing first. And then we've got the Cheshire Premier Division, and we've got the West.
The West Cheshire.
I've screwed up here. The West Cheshire. I don't think we'll end up in the West Cheshire, but we could end up in the West Lancashire. It should be the West Lancashire League.
Oh, the West Lancashire League, right.
The wrong page has been printed off, but they're the three. Listen, there is I don't know whether technically we could end up in the
West Cheshire.
In the West Cheshire.
That seems a little far.
Doubtful.
Yeah, that seems a little bit far. That's Mossley Hill, Bootle, Aintree, South Liverpool, which is ironic, Ellesmere Port, Vauxhall. There are places like that. They're not really where we are, locationally speaking, on a map. So, actually, given the fact that we're playing at Crosby, maybe.
Yeah, I suppose that'll have some bearing on it. We're in the middle of Liverpool, aren't we? So
we are for now, yeah. So, Frank, where do you, if you're going to sort of put your thinking head on, where do you think we will end up?
The only example I can give that might give us an idea is that when Ashton Town were relegated a few years ago, they were allocated to the Liverpool Premier League. They appealed against it and ended up in the Cheshire League. Now, the argument is not so much whether one is tougher than the other, it's whether one has more, shall we say, younger players, whereas the Liverpool Premier League has the more journeymen. Footballers that have played at a higher level, and are probably just prolonging the career. I might be wrong on that one, because I'm pretty sure that MSB Walton would disagree with that. They're probably a squad of very fine young men. I don't know. I think Waterloo Dock is made up of a reasonably young side as well. I don't know a great deal about any of the divisions at all. I've been to watch a few games in the Cheshire League last season, particularly Garswood. I've been along to watch them, and there's no easy. The fact is, there's just no easy division.
No.
There's no easy league to go into. So, if somebody was to ask me, like I think you did, which division I prefer to go into, I'm going backwards and forwards on this one. One minute it was the Cheshire League, the next minute it was West Lancashire.
Yeah.
And then, I thought to myself, well, Liverpool Premier League, there's less travelling. But then, looking at it, there was only 12 teams that completed the season.
There was, Admiral FC and the Nalo didn't complete their season, and all their results were declared void, unfortunately, which meant that there were 12 teams that would finish the league in Liverpool Premier, which would make it a very short season indeed.
Well, 22 to be precise, which is 12 less than what we played last season.
Domestically, that doesn't include the cup competitions that we were involved in as well, of which there were about 3 or 4.
And I don't know what cup competitions there will be in that. So based on that, if we're looking for, like Gary said before, you're in a situation where if you've got a big fixture list, you've got time where you can have, you can have a loss of form.
Yeah.
You certainly can't where you've only played 22 games in it.
No, I'm afraid not. It's winner takes all every single game. By the look of it.
Also raises the question on the fact that there is a minimum in the non-league pyramid, and that means that there has to be a minimum of 16 teams.
I see.
In those divisions. Now, obviously, MSB Walton have competed in a league that ended up with 12 teams, and they've only played 22 games in order to grant themselves a promotion, which is great. They've worked hard for it, and we know the rules. We've said that before. But there's no consistency there.
No, it doesn't look like there was much consistency there. I know MSB Walton had clearly got things in order off the pitch. They had the correct stadium accreditation and the bounce tests that ruled them absolutely fine to come into the Northwest Counties. But to have only played 22 games, and albeit you only dropped points in 5 of them, whereas we, but playing devil's advocate would argue that we had 34 opportunities to get ourselves away from relegation and didn't. So, I mean, it's a horrible one to kind of think about here, but you kind of wonder where the line is drawn, unfortunately.
Definitely negates my argument when you say when you put it that way. Listen, best of luck to MSB Walton. Wish them the best of luck. They've got their on credit. They've won the league and they deserve it, and they've won it by
7 points.
7 points, so they've done extremely well.
They have. I'm just trying to get some more information on the West Lancashire Football League, where Fulwood Amateurs came from.
There's a lot of travelling. That was the thing I was going to say. There's a fair amount of travelling in the West Lancashire League. I think you mentioned it earlier to me. There's places up in Cumbria.
Let's have a look. So the West Lancashire Football League. Let me see. Where did Fulwood Amateurs finish in that league? That's unusual. Yeah.
We're having a pregnant
Premier.
pause here.
Premier Division. Right, let's have a look.
Yeah.
So Fulwood Amateurs finished 4th, but their backstory was enough that they had their affairs in order and were promoted. So Blackpool Wren Rovers, Rossendale, Haslington, which is over in Blackburn, Poulton, which is up beyond Blackpool, Milnthorpe, which is in the Southern Lake District, Coppell, which is just down the road from me in Chorley.
That's okay.
And Whitehaven, which is up in Cumbria, to kind of Carlisle way.
Bit of a trek there.
It is a bit of a trek there. Now, what was handy about that league is, well, I don't know if it's even handy really, but there's 15 teams in the league, which would make it a 28 game season should it happen. But there's an awful lot of travelling around in there, and a lot of teams they don't exactly represent local. It's not exactly West Lancashire, is it?
No,
it's not.
No. But listen, regardless of where we end up, and we take it on the chin. We're not arguing about it. There's a lot of things that you might not be happy with, but we have to look forward to next season.
Yeah.
And I think I mentioned it in my press release earlier on today. We made the bold commitment of signing up to a ground share agreement with Marine.
Yep.
As we all know, it's a National League North stadium. It's a fabulous facility, and hopefully when it comes to the divisions and the grounds that we're going to be playing at, I think a lot of people will be looking forward to playing at Marine.
I think so, yeah.
In terms of drawing attraction as well, bringing players to the club as well.
It's an additional catchment area. Now that we are in Crosby, we can tap into the Liverpool contingent. We can look to scrounge and scavenge from Southport, Crosby, Formby, teams and places like this one. Ellesmere Port, I think, is another one. So there is scope for talent around here, and because we've got our affairs in order off the pitch and we have this ground share agreement with Marine, if this is agreed for the season beyond next and we finish in the top 5 of whatever league we finish in, we don't necessarily have to finish first to be promoted. I know MSB Walton did, but Forward Amateurs finished 4th, and they finished 4th by 15 points off of the leaders of that division, Tempest United. But ironically enough, they only finished ahead on goal difference from the 5th place team, Blackpool Wren Rovers. So there is an awful lot of scope for, although not winning the league, being promoted, which again gives us all the more opportunity to see this as a bigger rebuild.
Yeah. I'm just going back then, I don't like to dwell on the situation too much, but if you're going to have, the way it should be 3 down, 3 up, 3 down.
Gary alluded to that.
Yeah, mentioned it before. Now, I agree with that, but I understand that there's issues surrounding that, because a lot of teams have either failed ground grading or they've fallen out of the league, and we'll talk about Farsley Celtic in a minute. But once you're in that position, then if we finished in the bottom 3 of our league, but they've finished 4th in their division. That does not seem fair.
No.
It doesn't seem fair at all.
It does seem very unusual, yeah, and I understand that the league have to have some scope of flexibility to try and promote teams and give them a better opportunity, but at the same time, there has to be a bit of a limit here. I mean, finishing 4th in their division, 15 points behind the leaders, it doesn't scream domination of the amateur divisions here, and I don't know how much scope for success it will give them in the Northwest Counties Division 1 North, although I do wish them well. Yeah,
listen, I wish Fullwood all the best as well, moving up. But if you look at the Premier Division of the Liverpool Premier League, Joey Orr's FC finished in 5th place. Had they had the ground requirements, they could have gone up as well. They only played 21 games.
And won 10 of them.
Yeah, I don't know whether there's a game to be played.
Between themselves and King Harry FC. That's interesting.
Yeah. But anyway, it just raises that question again about the fairness in it. We can see the logic in 3 up, 3 down, but I can't see the logic in 1 down, but the 4th from, or even 5th from, the top, winning promotion. That doesn't seem to be fair at all. No. So anybody that will argue, and they have, been trolled already. As you can imagine, they've already moaned and said, "Oh, you're moaning already?" No, I'm not really moaning, but you know what? The facts. It's an observation. The facts are there, and they're there for everybody to debate. Yeah. But we are in the position we are, and I think I've mentioned it on numerous occasions now. We've got meetings coming up around the end of this month, and following on from that into June and July, in the hope that we can secure land in Skelmersdale at some stage, and that we can develop. Yep. Now, if people are looking for reasons to criticise the football club, let's be really, really honest about it. If you haven't got the money to build a plan to create a ambitious or winning football club, you can only float or try your best to float. And that's what we've been doing for the past few seasons. And that's what we'll continue to do. The most important thing at the end of the day was to stay in business, which we've managed to achieve. But beyond that, anybody expecting us to perform miracles and to stay in the Northwest Counties, nobody's guaranteed, with no guarantee that we'll, if we're in the Cheshire Premier League, there's no guarantee that we'll stay in that division. We might be relegated again. But it all comes down to finances. Money rules football at whatever level you want to talk about. So from that perspective, let's be honest with each other. It's easy to criticise, but those behind the scenes that are working hard, and not just the board of directors or the supporters, the people and the volunteers that have been involved, but the sponsors, the stakeholders. I put a lot of money into this football club, and I'm entitled to have my opinion just as much, probably more than anybody else. And I'll continue to put as much money as I can into the football club to keep it floating, but I need help. And rather than criticise, come up with the goods and give us a bit of help, support the football club. Don't keep criticising. It really annoys me that there's ex-supporters that still have a voice. Come along, criticise at the football match. You wouldn't stop watching Everton if they got relegated to the Championship, would you? You wouldn't. You wouldn't blame it on. Well, you would. You'd blame it on everybody else but yourself, and then you'd walk away from it. Okay. Doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't.
But listen, we're excited about the new season, the season that we're looking forward to. We've got to remain optimistic. Yep. We've got to do something about it. Listen, the work, the biggest work, the hardest work is getting back to Skem. If we can achieve that, everything will fall back into place. But I said it in my press release, Skelmersdale United Football Club is a big name. It still carries an awful lot of kudos. And we'll carry on creating history. And hopefully there'll be people there will jump on the bandwagon and help us get back to where we belong. But,
we'll have to see.
Yeah. But it's a tough road, we know that. It's not going to be easy.
No, it's not, no. So all we can do is just kind of go in with the best possible attitude.
Yeah.
100%.
Now, Farsley Celtic, we'll go completely off the Skem subject altogether. But nobody came in with any questions. We did ask if anybody wanted to ask any questions, and nobody's asked any. Listen, I've been batting off phone calls all day, so I probably answered most of them anyway. But moving on to Farsley Celtic, as we've featured this story for quite a while, heavily, and we've had their ex-owner on the show in the shape of Paul Barthorpe.
Yep.
And unfortunately now the club has been relegated 3 divisions because they couldn't get a licence to play in the National League North due to the ground improvements on the pitch not being made in time. So now they're dropping down to the Northern Counties East Premier Division. Seems...
Yeah, which is step 5, isn't it?
Yeah. Sad day for Farsley.
It's very, so the Northern Counties East Premier Division is the equivalent of the Northwest Counties Prem Division here for us. So that'll be where they kind of start their journey back up the pyramid. We've not had any confirmation yet as to where they're going to be playing. We assume it's somewhere inherently much closer to the town of Farsley than Buxton in Derbyshire, as they now have scope to put down roots, in much tighter, in much easier conditions and surroundings. And I think most Farsley Celtic fans and volunteers and anyone associated with the club would have expected something like this to happen. They have been treading a bit of a wire all season in regards to, this ground development business through no fault of their own, it has to be said. And unfortunately, the league has, the FA has ruled that they've got to start again, really. So deeply disappointing for Farsley Celtic, but again, another opportunity to build back from scratch.
and their debts have continued to mount. Apparently, the directors, Paul Glover, Josh Greaves, John Stubbs and John Wickham said, as a board, we recognise this will be disappointing for our fans as it is for us. It's not what we wanted, but sometimes you need to take a step backwards in order to move forwards. And pragmatically, we believe this move to be necessary to protect the long-term financial future of the club. The debts facing the club have continued to mount in recent weeks. We're in a situation where we have to be pragmatic. Northern Counties East League offers us significantly lower travelling costs and running costs as well as we seek to stabilise the club. Our funding bid for a new grass pitch will be decided by the Football Foundation next month, while a ground share for the start of next season is almost agreed. And we're still looking to work on securing a lease for the ground. The club added, while we could have appealed against this decision, the long-term future of the club remains our priority, and a lot of work has been put in by the board and others to ensure Farsley continues to have a semi-professional football club. The long-term future of our first team, deaf, junior and women's sides continues to be our priority. Now, I believe what they've said is sometimes you do need to take a step backwards in order to move forwards, and I think, as well as being pragmatic, that is probably the philosophy for a lot of clubs that are in that position, similar to us, and pretty much the same could be said of us. This is a step backwards, but it's a step backwards to move forwards.
Yeah, and I know that we've had to take a few steps backwards over the last few seasons in order to try and stabilise the club, make it so that it not only floats but rises and prospers. And this is just another step that we need to take for the good of the club itself and the preservation of its existence, really. So, as we say, we've managed to do that again for next season. We've got a ground, we've got a manager and a coaching staff. We've got fans and volunteers and a board of directors. And I hope very much that we still have most of the team from last season as well. So, although we have been relegated, we are in much clearer circumstances and surroundings going into the season than what we were last season. I mean, I wasn't here, for God's sake, so that shows you the certainty that we've got.
Well, listen, we made improvements. There's no doubt about it. In terms of maintaining football, carrying on, that was the first aim. We managed to do that, and we're solvent. We're not in any debt. So that's sort of to be gloried. But listen, there's a lot of clubs, bigger clubs, or so-called bigger clubs, that are in just as much trouble as us. Blythe Spartans, they finished bottom of their division. I think they're the Northern Counties East themselves.
They might very well be. Yeah. Let's have a look. I don't. What did you say anyway?
But I mean, I think I've seen something on social media saying there that how the mighty fall, because they'll now be blamed with, is it Blythe Town? Is it there's a Blythe Town as well as a Blythe Spartans?
Goodness me.
Yeah, so it's a difficult one all round. There's a lot of clubs that fall from grace from time to time, but there's also a lot of clubs that rise from the ashes as well. You look at Accrington Stanley when they went out of the Football League, eventually came back. And it's funny that we should be talking about Accrington Stanley because they've got problems of their own again. But no club stays down forever.
No.
So,
no, they don't. This is just our little drop before we rise again.
How are you feeling about next season?
I'm excited. We've got a lovely little ground. I say love. It's little. It's practically palatial compared to where we've been prior. Facilities are fantastic. We have a squad. We have committed players, which is something that we didn't have 12 months ago.
Yeah.
With the exception of 2. Maybe even 3. So again, that's a positive and an optimistic there. We're likely to be garnering more fans, from the Crosby and surrounding areas who, may want to come and see Skelmersdale United play. So there's no end of opportunities here to make new friends and to get more wind under our belt and get new potentially new financial benefactors as well.
Yeah, and listen, that's definitely what we need. We need more sponsorship, more stakeholders. Anybody that's interested in supporting the football club, then listen, you can catch us on all forms of social media.
Yeah.
You'd be more than welcome.
Yeah.
And listen, I've been speaking to a potential stakeholder from Rehad during the week, and there's a possibility that we might possibly have someone investing a bit of money in the football club within the next few weeks as well. But listen, there's nothing guaranteed. I don't want to get overexcite anybody, but we talk to as many people as possible. We try and talk to all the right people and try to get the club back on its feet again.
Mm-hmm.
But listen, I think that rounds off this bonus episode of the Speaking Frankly Football Show, which leaves me with the final points of what have you learned this week?
Well, I have learned that there is no realistic scope for what the FA will pull out of the hat in terms of setting up the provisions for leagues next season. I had an inkling that we would be going down. I didn't for a second think that there would be 3 teams in the Northwest Counties, 3 leagues, with different number of teams in that league. 24, 19 and 18, it does beggar a little bit of belief. So always be surprised at what the FA pull out of the hat. On a much more pragmatic note, though, I will say that what I've learned is, and I'll echo the sentiments of the Farsley Celtic chairs there, sometimes you do have to take a step backward to go a few steps forward.
Yeah, totally agree with you there. I was sort of resigned to the fact that we were going to be relegated. When the news filtered through, it was disappointing. I felt a huge amount of disappointment again, even though I'd resigned myself to the fact. I think I was more annoyed by the way the information was received. I did think that we would be told in advance, and the news would be embargoed until it was officially released. And they could have released it at 6:00 on the Thursday evening rather than 12:00 in the afternoon. They could have told us first, but it's done with it. It's done and dusted with now.
It is.
So yeah, what have I learned? Well, it's a tough gig being involved in football. I've said this time and time again. It doesn't get any better at times. It can get a hell of a lot worse. We've got to that point now, but we have to rebuild and we have to go forward and make the best of a bad situation. And like AJ and like Farsley Celtic have said, we've gone backwards in order to move a step forward. And I just hope that people around us will support us, and sponsors and benefactors will get on board and help us through these stormy waters. And I'll leave the final words to AJ as normal.
You've been listening to the Speaking Frankly Football Show with me, AJ Bajet, and my co-host, Mr. Frank Hughes. We can be found on most streaming services where you get your podcasts from, including Spotify and Amazon Music. Please remember to subscribe to us on these channels so that you can be one of the first to find out when a new episode of the Speaking Frankly Football Show has been released. Please also remember to rate and review, as we do thrive off the feedback provided to us. We are also available on social media channels like X and Facebook under the banner name Speaking Frankly Football Show. So from us at the Speaking Frankly, we are very grateful to you for listening, and we will see you very soon for another episode. Until then, bye-bye for now.